Guys who married BrideZillas, what happened after the wedding? First wife was a BrideZilla. During the honeymoon she realized she was married and the wedding day was history. She wanted the big wedding, which she had, not the marriage. The next 2 years were hell until she finally tapped out. I was young and stupid and the thought of divorce never crossed my mind. I don't know why it didn't. I guess I just assumed I'd be miserable the rest of my life. When she told me she was leaving, it felt as if the weight of the world was off of my shoulders. On a happy note, her parents were still paying off the wedding when we divorced. That's what happens when you allow your daughter everything she wanted, including 2 wedding dresses. Got into a huge fight about broccoli on the honeymoon. All my fault, of course. I knew then it was a mistake. Toughed it out for 2 more years of abuse before I left. So glad I did. I didn't marry the BrideZilla, but I had coordinated her wedding. He had a death in the family, 6-month-old baby, a few days prior to the wedding. I called the bride and told her the situation, and said that my assistant would be stepping in for me so that I could attend the funeral. She told me to send my assistant to the funeral and that I had better be at her wedding. I told her I would be sending her a refund and that no one would be coming to her wedding. The groom ended up leaving her after this whole thing went down. Suffice to say, he really dodged a bullet there. She stabbed me in the thigh during the meal at our wedding. Still in prison. Edit. This story needs more than 2 sentences, even though they are admirably concise. Kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. My wife and I eloped a few months before our wedding and kept it mostly a secret. Then on the day of, we could just focus on having an awesome party for us and our friends. Our pastor cancelled the day of after standing us up for the rehearsal. My wife checked into the hotel the morning of and the lady asked, "Lady at counter, is there anything else I can help you with?" Wife jokingly, "Yes. A pasta. Lack. Dot. Our omelette chef is ordained. Back. Hey Tony. You busy tonight?" Tony. "No." Wife. "Okay." As someone who used to manage a men's warehouse, I can't wait for someone to start the thread about prom moms. My buddy married a BrideZilla. She was a BrideZilla long before the wedding, and they had dated for about 7 years. I have no idea how they are doing. I just kind of stopped talking to him a few years after she claimed I ruined his birthday by remaining sober. I had driven 5 hours to be at his birthday. Married for 7 years before I bailed. Best decision of my life. Got married again 5 years later to a girl that just wanted a justice of the peace wedding. Second best decision of my life. Courthouse weddings are the best. Ours was done in 30 minutes and then we had Cajun food and sex. It was nice not being so tired from wedding prep and doings that you just felt like spending the honeymoon sleeping. Cheated whole time. Left for an alcoholic guy who had more money. The couple I knew, they spent tens of thousands on their wedding and then a couple of years later she cheated on him with a much younger man. I knew a couple who spent $25,000 on a wedding despite having 3 kids and still living with the bride's parents. The bride had a very specific vision in mind and didn't care how much it cost. They divorced a year later when she cheated on him. Divorce after 2 years. She moved her stuff out while I was at work. I cried, and then when I got remarried to someone new, I realized what real love was. Also, my ex shit herself on 5 separate occasions when she was blackout drunk because she was an alcoholic. So I don't miss that either. My sister was labeled a BrideZilla by the staff at her venue. I heard them. However, the chair coverings were red, supposed to be brown. There was no mirror in the bridal suite for her to get ready at. The photographer was late. The makeup artist was very late, hence the issue with the mirror. The buffet was totally wrong. Not a single dish she chose, and they charged $25 a person for what was to be a 4-tier chocolate fountain, but ended up being a small plastic contraption that she saw them unboxing from Walgreens the day of. It's a convenience store. On top of it all, the wait staff was one stroke to the number the contract stated and the DJ refused to honor the playlist selected. So, yeah. She lost it at the venue. I knew I would have been a BrideZilla. I get extremely stressed about things and refuse to ask for help. My husband and I got married at the courthouse. Best decision ever. My brother's fiance went off on my mom in front of me and my sister when he was 45 minutes late to the rehearsal due to his best man's car tire blowing out. Where is your asshole of a son? Dude should have never showed up for the wedding. Not only a BrideZilla, but a total utter sociopath. Her life was completely fabricated and her parents, who didn't show up for the wedding, called my mom to tell her the truth about it the day after. She had a rap sheet a mile long and a prison record. But my brother, who just wanted to believe that people can change, stuck it out for 7 years. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. My buddy married a BrideZilla. They are still together 10 years later. She posts on Instagram about their supposedly perfect marriage, but have been separated twice. I'm not sure how many of her friends know. He's an alcoholic now. I've often noticed how the real state of the relationship is inversely proportional to the projected state of the relationship on social media. I think this law needs a name. My brother married a BrideZilla. She yelled at my mother the day of for asking her where she wanted certain decorations at the reception site. There wasn't a written plan, so my mom had nothing to go off of. Never thanked my parents for financially contributing to the wedding. Accused the bridesmaid of trying to upstage her by getting a spray tan before the wedding. My brother wanted me to be in the wedding party, but she told him to his face that I was too pretty to be in the wedding party and all of her bridesmaids had to be less attractive than her. Stole my silk jacket in the middle of the reception, literally took it off her back because one of the bridesmaids was cold. It was a night reception in the spring. The girl should have brought a jacket. The list goes on. Well, they got divorced about a year later because apparently her demanding attitude carried over into the marriage. Needless to say, the rest of my family had a little party when we heard about the divorce. Married a groomzilla. We are talking costume changes between wedding and reception. Yelling at the wedding planner. Drag out all night fights about whether we can add fruit kebabs so people would maybe get enough to eat. All that. There was zero compromise. He made a lot of promises for things I had been wanting after the wedding and they never materialized. Like a beach vacation and such. Turns out, no compromise at the wedding meant no compromise anywhere else. So I left him after 4 years of marriage. Best decision ever. I married a groomzilla. Bent over backwards to make the wedding as magical as he wanted. I would have been happy in someone's backyard with a potluck. He admitted in couples counseling 7 years later that he never really wanted to marry me so much as he wanted a huge show and party. Everyone liked and approved of me, so he wanted them all to see he was making a good choice and be envious. He wanted them to be proud of him. We used up most of the money I got from a car accident settlement. Could have put in a down payment in a small house. He asked for divorce in 2020. My sister was a BrideZilla. She announced a 2-year engagement and asked me to be more. Then I got the opportunity to move across the country to pursue my career. It was 18 months before her wedding and her reaction to the news was, "You're going to leave me here to plan my wedding all by myself?" Like I had signed away my right to have a life for the honor of being in her wedding. She made us all spend hundreds of dollars on specialized dresses. The bachelorette party had a dress code and a steep price tag. For 10 years before her engagement I had consistently had blue, green, purple hair, but knowing she is conservative I'll let the color grow out. I had natural color but a short bob with undercut that she went on about. In the lead up we talked every few days to discuss her wedding. It was the closest we'd ever been, and then as soon as she was married I got radio silence. And she even forgot my birthday. Needless to say we don't speak anymore, so I have no idea how her marriage is going. Not a guy. But I'm pretty sure my venue thinks I'm a BrideZilla. The situation was that I asked for a second tasting. I was calm and asked via email. Even had my fiance read it before sending. The reason? I told them I'm a vegetarian several times prior, and when I got to the first tasting I couldn't eat anything, and they even put bacon on the salad they served me. We also asked for absolutely no bacon pig because we had quite a few people coming who didn't eat it for religious reasons. My fiance had like 7 full-sized dishes around him and I was just sitting there with a glass of wine for over an hour. They were very rude and treated me like a BrideZilla when I came for the second tasting. Eesh. Speaking with no experience of weddings, I feel like I would have just wanted to drop that venue caterer on the spot. Feels generous that you gave them a second chance. I married a BrideZilla. He is a lovely, sweet, thoughtful man, but boy did he lose it surrounding the wedding. I could have been married with about 3 special people there. He needed 200 plus. As far as I was concerned, we could eat off paper plates and napkins and have a big bonfire to burn them afterwards. He need personalized moist towelettes. You get the point. He is a lovely person and I love him dearly, but I will never marry him again. Divorce or a sex? I'm a wedding officiant who has married over 300 couples. I know. Wrong kind of marrieds. Only a few BrideZillas in there. And they're actually super easy for me to work with. They write their own ceremony. Don't depend on me to run the rehearsal. And they don't try to deke me down on the price. Mothazillas of the bride, on the other hand, are my worst fear, as they can quickly make my job miserable. If they're failing to get their way on interfering with their daughter's wedding, they'll try to use me as a proxy. Edit. When I got married I saw why women become BrideZillas. Lots of unsolicited advice, criticism, requests and stupid comments. When we sent out our invites I included a line that said, "Do you have a request you think we should make? Click on this link to start." It was a link to PayPal for a donation. If you're gonna give us your unsolicited advice you should join in on the funding. People got the message. I know this is not what you are asking, but my friend married a groomzilla. It was seriously nuts to watch. It could have easily wrecked all her friendships. He was so bossy and had zero sense of how crazy he was acting. They are fine and he is back to normal, but I think it highlighted his controlling tendencies. Before reading these comments I thought a BrideZilla was a woman huge and strong enough to be compared to Godzilla, and entered the thread eagerly expecting to read stories about grooms getting lifted and carried off into the sunset on wedding day. Not married, but I ended a friendship with a BrideZilla who desperately wanted me to attend her wedding. She had it scheduled for the weekend of the eclipse in 2017. Something I had planned for 10 years. She asked me what my plan was and I said that I'm flying to the Missouri, Kentucky area. She wanted me to fly to Idaho where she lived. I would have, but all flights, hotels, and rental cars in Idaho and Utah were completely booked out. I couldn't get there even if I wanted to. She said I didn't care about her or her wedding and that I didn't want to see her on her big day. She claimed I put the eclipse, something I had planned on seeing for 10 years, before her Lenny, someone I knew for 6 months. So I ended things really fast after that. But from what I see, she still posts photos of her wedding to this day. Like every day she posts different wedding photos. It's almost like she stopped living after her wedding. My uncle married one. She had a spending problem. Went clubbing in her 40s thinking she was 20. Acted like she was better than everyone. Couldn't keep friendships. And she cheated on my uncle with a man 10-15 years her junior. My uncle is remarried and happy. Edit. Sorry not to imply there's something wrong with going clubbing at all. Also that she'd abandoned her day-to-day priorities in order to focus on clubbing as a lifestyle. i.e. clubbing almost every single weekend, both Friday, Saturday, rather than finding time to spend time with kids at home. Getting drunk and needing to sleep over friends' house who may not be comfortable with staying out that late. Getting mad at said friends because they don't wanna go clubbing. The issue was less about liking clubs, but more about the obsession that many don't have. That's why I added acting like she's 20. If you're childless, have little responsibilities and have friends who enjoy that thing, go for it. But at 40ish, There's a bit of prioritizing and it starts to become difficult. They had the expensive $75k wedding. Afterwards they split and it turned out the bride never turned in the paperwork to make their marriage illegal. The groom didn't even know he wasn't married until he wanted to file for a divorce. The bride never returned the gifts either, even though they never even got married. She just lied to everyone about it. IDK, how many people know she never got married? Man. After reading some of these stories, I fucking love my wife. She's awesome and her family was awesome during that time in our lives. I just wanted some good music and good food and to marry my best friend. I got all three. Been married 14 years. She's definitely a pain in the ass sometimes, but so is everyone else. I'm also pretty laid back, so a lot of decisions I leave to her because I just don't care. If it's a decision I do care about, I make the decision. Without her, I wouldn't have the 3 best kids on earth. She's an amazing mom and our kids have our best qualities. We have fun all the time. I think she was a BrideZilla not because she was a crazy person. It was more about making the moment right for everyone and making it a great memory. She had a relatively rough life with her parents and there weren't a ton of great memories. I notice she goes way out of her way to make great memories for the kids. She's always planning stuff for us to do with them. I'm gonna keep her. I married the anti-BrideZilla. We paid down student loans and did a 2-part honeymoon instead. Pro tip. Any service for your wedding that you can get by not identifying it as for a wedding. Do not tell them it is for a wedding. It instantly triples the price. 3-tiered cake? $300. 3-tiered cake for a wedding? $1. 000. She paid for a life-size portrait of her in the wedding dress. It was very important at the time. The marriage lasted 1 year before she cheated. I hope her future suitors take that as a clue. Or not, I don't really give a damn. I'm remarried and happy now. I married a groomzilla. After we were hitched he acted like he owned me. Wouldn't let me use the debit card even though we both deposited into it because he made most of the money. Like I couldn't even buy MCDS between jobs. He even got jealous when I went out to eat with my mom without him. Lasted 6 months. My aunt is a fucking crazy hoe. Spent $90k on the wedding in 2006. Divorced by 2007. Her ex was such a nice dude. He's married with kids now. She's alone and got knocked up by a dude that's running her dry through lawyer fees. Their wives monitor their PCs. Check their internet histories to make sure they aren't cheating on them by watching PRN, even though I haven't had sex with him in 2 years. And is busy running the visa bill up to $50k for the 4th time in 6 years. Necessitating yet another refinancing on their starter home that they bought for $275k but now have a $600k loan on. Their wives probably don't let them on Reddit. Remember folks, be with a partner who wants a marriage, not a wedding. My friend married one. Less than 6 months and she wanted a renewing their vows ceremony. My sister has been married twice. First wedding was totally BrideZilla. But nice about it. Probably 150 to 200 guests. Sit down dinner. The whole shebang. Marriage didn't last 5 years. Second wedding. In Hawaii. About 20 people came. Very chill. Only 2 or 3 events leading up to the wedding. Including a rehearsal dinner that was open invitation to anyone who came to Hawaii. They've been married 10 years with 2 kids and are so compatible it's kind of disgusting. Despite it being a destination wedding. The second wedding cost 1/4 what the first one did. Divorce. My army buddies said they could see it coming. I am easygoing, enjoy almost everything. And she was upset after what looked like a perfect wedding. She later said she wanted a smaller wedding. I don't talk to her or read emails and texts from her. Full of anger and spite. And I tell her so usually in a reply. Last year her tax return was deposited in my bank account. and I contacted her to ask for account details so I could transfer it to her. I got a 3-page email about how if I spend anything she would have lawyers go after me. So I mailed a check to her. The slowest way possible. I, 21F at the time, married a BrideZilla, 25. I wanted to elope because I didn't like the idea of being stared at by people. He demanded a wedding of 200 plus. Had my parents build a giant gazebo on our farm. Said he'd help pay for building costs. Me and my daddy built it by hand with our neighbor. He always worked. Don't get me wrong, he helped a few weekends, but it was a year-long project. Shortly after the wedding, we retired to our hotel and he didn't want to have sex. I was like, okay. Long day, I get it. 3 months into a restless marriage, I walk into him banging our 60-ish-year-old male neighbor. I opened my bedroom door. Saw him taking it in the ass. Said I was sorry. Shut the door. Got my dog. And drove home to mommy and daddy a state away. Why did I say I was sorry and not yell? I will never know. She made me personally correct the wedding guest list and invitations to correctly address all of her DR friends. She fought with my mom at the end of the night over who was going to take the envelopes home. There was so much more. I ended up leaving her 9 months later. This was 3 years ago. It still hurts when I think about it. That wedding and ring and divorce financially ruined me, but life has gotten better. 2020 was good to me. She apparently started cheating a few weeks before the wedding. He suspected. Took him a while before he confirmed. They divorced. She was a horrible woman. Friend had to go to therapy. Went deeper into religion. Found a new woman who is very nice. Makes him happy. Now has a little girl and is finally happy. First wife ended up marrying the guy she was cheating with. Don't really care about her anymore. I am not married to a BrideZilla. Fortunately. But my wife and I used to own a floral shop and dealt with many a crazy bride. The most memorable was a bride who was adamant that she had fresh orchids for her bouquet and for the boutonnieres and corsages. We explained to her that was a sketchy idea because she was getting married in northern Utah in February and there was 2 feet of snow on the ground. We told her again and again that if the orchids got exposed to the cold they were going to start to show signs of damage pretty quickly. We suggested that she use silk orchids instead, which would have been cheaper. 2. She wasn't buying it. Needless to say, she made her new husband drive her to our shop the morning after the wedding, on their way to their honeymoon, so she could yell at us because the orchids got damaged by the cold and we ruined her wedding. I could see her husband out in the car with the most sheepish look on his face. I think it was at the moment that he realized who he had just married. Moved back in with Momthra. This thread makes me thankful for my wedding. My wife and I got married in her parents' backyard. With about 80 people. We had it catered by a taco truck. And had some of our friends bartender the open. But limited bar. We had lawn games and a dance party. It was the most fun I've ever had at a wedding. Looking back, there was a couple of things I would have changed. But overall it was perfect. We spent about $12k, which felt expensive. But in terms of weddings it wasn't bad. I'd love to have a wedding every summer.